Now, what we're going to do is talk for about an hour about how to come up with extensions, i.e. what makes it an extension legitimately, and I'm going to give my personal views on that. For those of you that don't know me, my advice is likely to be fairly sound because I was chief adjudicator of the last World Championship, so try to listen to what I'm saying, but bear in mind that the next chief adjudicator of other tournaments might view things slightly differently. Always read the briefings because different competitions have got different rules. Hello, welcome. Is the room cold enough before I start?
No.
No, but you will get cold.
Hopefully it will get colder. Good. Hello. Hello. So, I understand that there are a number of people in here who are not that familiar with British parliamentary, but the majority of you do know British parliamentary, and so you're looking for pro tips. So how to be outstanding. But I do need to start very briefly with a definition of what the role of the third speaker is, so that those people who are not that familiar with British parliamentary or world style are acquainted, and then together we'll then move straight to the more complicated stuff. This is not going to be a how do you give a third person speech, because I think you will roughly all know how to do that. The role of the extension speaker, the third speaker, is to first of all provide approximately 2.5 minutes to 3.5 minutes of rebuttal of the case of the other side, whether that's proposition or opposition. And by that I mean, this is why you are wrong, this is why what you have said will destroy the world, this is why what you have said is illogical, and that was factually incorrect. You're then charged with providing at least one, but ideally two, completely novel pieces of argumentation. That can happen in one of two ways. Either it is something completely new, something that has simply not been said before in the debate, a different way of looking at the debate, which makes you a more compelling reason to agree with the either proposition or opposition. Alternatively, and this is where I'm anticipating questions from you at some point, there is the famous second way in which you provide an extension, and that is to provide deeper analysis of what has already been said elsewhere in the debate. We'll look at those separately, and I will give you some ideas on how to identify when something has been underanalyzed and therefore you can analyse it more, and when you should just leave it alone and say, that argument has been killed, there's no need to hit that argument anymore, I'm going to have to come up with something novel. Is everyone happy with what an extension speech is? Okay. Bear in mind one final thing before I then move to some ideas about how to come up with extensions. The summation speaker, so the fourth speaker, your dearly beloved partner, has to stand up in their speech, and when they are summarising the round, show obviously what has happened in the debates as a whole, but very explicitly state why your extension was new and why it was the argument that carried the debate. The most compelling reason for the judges to award that debate to your team. This needs to be explicit. So, if you have 3 clashes, your partner has 3 clashes, and they say 3 clashes are X, Y, and Z. Clash X, the debate on the top half was like this. Where the debate really took off, however, on this particular clash, was when my partner, Anirin Brewer, said this line of argumentation. That's just something to bear in mind. The extension does not die with the extension speaker. The extension lives on, like Elvis Presley, in the summation speech. If it does not, a lot of judges will go, well, to be honest, if even his partner dropped the extension, was it that valuable? That's to be borne in mind. So, let me then ask you, when guys find it most difficult to come up with an extension? At what point? What is the point at which you just start panicking? The sweat starts running down your forehead and you start thinking, shit, we are going to be either third or fourth, depending on whether the other team also can find an extension.
When everything that you thought that will be, they already talked about it.
Everything was said. Okay. My writing's crap, but you can understand it. Everything said.
I need a new pen.
Sorry?
I need a new pen.
I don't have one. I'm afraid.
Here. Here. I want to do.
Okay. I'm going to leave that one up there, but everything has been said. Okay, I definitely have some answers for that.
You don't really quench with the start of the motion.
You don't get the motion.
No, not
Don't.
one you get.
You don't know it.
Yeah, I don't know anything about it. Careful.
So you're in the wrong room.
Okay, this one doesn't work. I think the problem might be with the board.
Maybe it's you.
Oh, you? Yeah.
You're very supportive here in Australia.
Yeah. Wiki.
Because we did.
Okay, you don't have knowledge.
Well, the first half didn't define a clear course, and you're kind of like, you know where it's then, you don't know where to take it to.
Can you expand on that a bit? I'm not going to call that clear course. So a lack of
Direction.
Bad
so
first half.
you don't actually know what the team line is on your side.
Right. And where, if you're going to say you're going to contradict them, perhaps,
Too narrow.
Okay,
or to lie.
that's a different issue. TH means top half, and here we've got unclear direction. Anything else?
When you were expecting it to go in one way, they took it in a different direction.
Okay. Okay. I think that's probably enough. There are lots of reasons that you can have the fear when you're sitting in that third seat and your partner is expecting you to do something genius. Now, obviously, in the 15 minutes before the debate, you will, with your partner, have come up with maybe 12 arguments. Now, this one, everything has been said, is actually impossible in British parliamentary debate, as far as I'm concerned. The reason it's impossible is that the top half has only 14 minutes. If the motion is that bad that there is only 14 minutes of material, I cannot help you. That means that you went to a tournament with a terrible chief adjudicator. Like, every single proposition and opposition side will inevitably have more than 14 minutes of analysis on either side. Like, to the extent that it will have 21 minutes at the very least. So, if by everything has been said, you mean that you had 12 arguments, or 9 arguments, or 7 arguments, and as they speak, you find yourself crossing off, I know I've done this in part, you cross off the arguments as they go. The first thing you need to ask yourself, if you really think everything has been said, is which of these arguments did they spend too little time on? Because obviously, as a matter of fact, they have spent too little time on at least one, if not more, of their arguments. It's quite likely that that top half team has just run through assertions, statements, and has under-argued them. An argument has to be at least a minute and a half, if not 2 minutes, to be accepted as an argument. So they can't possibly have had 8 or 9 arguments. It's not possible. They will have fucked up somewhere. So you identify which of the arguments you think were underanalyzed, where you think that they haven't actually said what they were going to do. How do you do that? Did they have sufficient analysis beyond the mere statement that it was an argument?